Welcome to Stampscaping 101. These are the final touches for these 5 scenes here that were just kind of demonstration pieces for the Moon's nature sheet imagery. We've covered up entire images of duplicate lakeside coves down here and multiple stampings of the moon imagery with rocks and trees and just kind of filled these in to complete the scenes. Okay, now I say complete the scenes because a lot of times when people get to a certain stage of a scene, maybe they don't like it so much or something like that, and sometimes, or a lot of times they tell me they toss it, okay? And that's when they're kind of going in a direction, kind of a pointed direction, a specific direction, and they encounter something that where things just don't, they seem a little awry, okay? But I want to kind of demonstrate that you can do something that's completely unintentional, have, I mean, duplicate images or something like that, and still come out with something, that I think is acceptable in terms of a pretty good looking piece. Even, I was going to say unintentional, but that's not really the case. Because, I really see things kind of philosophically as kind of just a point along the process, and that's how I see stamping in general. I don't think about things in terms of finished results. Now, I get it if you see something, a finished piece, and it's like, okay, I want to do that scene right there, okay? But even for me, if I was to try to replicate one of these, I mean, I could and I can get really close, okay? But I don't really see it that way. And a lot of times when I do things, I mean, things come out a little bit different anyway. Now, for me, I don't like to duplicate things, if I'm going to do this scene again, chances are I would just do something a little bit different, just, to, I don't know, break monotony or something like that. But just for the variation that happens in here, I mean, I might not get that little blue streak in here. The streaks down here might look different. The lighting might be different on this rock or something like that. On this one right here, I stamped, 2 images of the Lakeside Cove, right side up and upside down or whatever. I wouldn't do that, but if I wanted to replicate this scene, even going into it specifically to do that, it wouldn't come out the same. So I don't even think about that. I'm saying that you don't need to either, okay? Something might come out, I don't know, here's the types of things that come out. I might start working on something like this, and oh, I re-inked my black pad, and it was juicier than I thought, okay? So I might start applying some ink down here, and oh, my tree smeared or something like that. That's something that happens to me all the time. I'm working on it and, I touch an area and it's wet and, I'm applying colors and I'm not really thinking. So I get a smudge and here's a little smudge down here, okay? Like right there, okay? I mean, to me, I don't care about something like that. But it might bother some people. Now, okay, yeah, let's say it does bother you or something like that. Then you can stamp some, I don't know, some rock textures or something like that down in this way to integrate that in with your piece. And some people are really anal. Okay, and I've taught a lot of workshops and thousands of people before in-person classes, and I get it. Okay, now some people might say, "Oh, hey," they might raise their hand, then they say, "I got a dot right there." I mean literally like pin dot. Okay, and I don't think that's wrong or anything like that. Sometimes those people that are super anal at that, they come out with amazing pieces. A lot of times they're not kind of satisfied with their pieces either, but they achieve really kind of amazing results. But I don't know. To me, that for the most of us, that's going to break the kind of the free-flowing kind of thought or feeling process. If it's really bothering you, it's hard to kind of move on and to concentrate on what you're doing. But that's what I see. I see everything kind of as a process, okay? I don't see things as kind of going awry. I just see it as just kind of a point in the process or something like that. And I have other things to do on it still, so it doesn't bother me at all, somewhere along the line. And I wasn't always that way, especially if I'm demonstrating in front of a group of 25 and I'm trying something completely new. it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if this is coming out right, you know, but you got all eyes on you. And pretty soon you just learn to kind of just ditch that and just to concentrate and focus on your process and what you're doing and the things that are, you know, that you have left to employ. And for me, it's like almost always it comes together. And people are saying, well, that's because it's you. Well, it's because not because it's me, it's because of the process. And that's the way, you know, it I am, you know, uh, or that's the way why it works out for me. It's not the other way around because I'm, you know, I figured out these processes first or something like that. It's because I had this philosophy of working on it and just kind of, you know, focusing on your spot. I don't know, they always say if you have kind of one eye kind of on the destination, you only have one eye with which to work, okay? So yeah, you can have kind of an idea of which general direction you're going in. You know, you have to know if it's going to be a, you know, a cool tone moon scene or something like that. You're not going to start working on this and come up with a, you know, a yellow golden sunset scene or something of that sort. But all those little things in between of, you know, these little detail types of things and what you can use on there. You know, if you allow yourself the freedom of, you know, maybe coming up with something unexpected, you know, you allow yourself kind of discovering some of the better techniques that you'll ever come up with, some of the compositional ideas that you'll ever come up with, you know, from not having such a fixed, definitive destination in mind. Okay, so anyways, we have these pieces right here, and what I've done, I've just really simplified all of these. I was going to, you know, maybe kind of put some different types of papers on them. I was thinking about some blue Star Dream papers and whatnot, but I just ended up going with some dark blue matte paper, you know, that looks like black, and you can use black. There's a lot of glossy black cardstock out there, and it really makes for some great card making material. This one's like a super dark navy blue, almost black. It looks black, so I'm saying black would work just as well. And just a little bit of that white border in there, and that brings out the lighting in here. A lot of times you kind of, you know, did you decide on that type of framing for a certain color, and it pops that color out. But for me, a lot of these pieces are kind of dealing with light, and I've retained some of the white of the paper in all of these, okay? Even if it's a little bit, okay? That white really brings out that lighting in there. Okay, now if all of that was gone, I don't think I would use white in here. I would use a different type of color. Or I would go with like a light green, like a really super light green border on it. And then this black kind of brings out the black of the pieces. Now I haven't spray sealed these, and when I spray seal them, this black right here, this ink, will come out. It'll probably look darker than this border right here, or as dark, so it'll match it up a little bit better, and it'll bring the saturations of the pieces up. Maybe, gosh, I don't want to make a 5-video series on this process right here, but I might. Okay, now on this one right here, I figured that shiny black was a little bit too much, because everything on here is like a little bit murky and black, so I just put it on some flat black folded card right here. So I'm going to stamp something on the inside here, but okay, so anyways, we have these pieces in here, and for me, I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to use too much. You normally use kind of white highlights in here, but I've gone a lot darker on these pieces than I normally do. Not this one right here, but on these ones, I don't have as much white, like lighting, you know, in terms of reflected light. I couldn't design it that way because I was covering up something else. Like this one already had the moon down here as well as this one. There's some white down there, and I could use the, you know, my white paint pen. But now this isn't a sales pitch on something like this, but I have the 42 paint pen set, and this is just an example on things that you can do other than just going straight with white. Now, I've used white in the past. I love it, and if that's the only one I had, I would be more than happy with it. But on a 42 color set like that, okay, I can have a nice range of tones like this, or range of values. This one even has that warmer kind of blue, like a Caribbean blue or something like that. But I could go with something like a darker to a lighter. These two are almost the same color, but they're so subtle. So you can have a nice range of tones, you know, in terms of your application of highlights, okay? These ones right here, if they're used as highlights, they won't stand out as much, so it'll be much more of a subtle application of color, okay? Or lighting, representative lighting, okay? This one right here I can use for my white light if I do choose to use it. But on these paint pens right here, I've talked about these in the past, but see how they're kind of, these ones have the clear barrel. I'm normally using the Meowsen pen, which has an opaque barrel right here, but this one you can see right through. It's the Artistro. I believe all these pens are probably the same make, but just branded differently. But these you really have to shake up. These things always look like ice cream or something like that to me. You know, the way they're kind of, you can see that right in there where the paint isn't mixed up. So these ones are pretty good. But now here's the nice thing about this. You can shake them all up together like this, okay? Now some of these I don't know if I've used before. Okay, now on this one right here, I thought white would really stand out almost too much on that. So I have this pen right here. I have no idea what color it is. They don't have the colors marked on this, which is fine with me. Now, if this is gold, I don't want it, like a metallic gold. But I thought if it's like kind of like a dirty green or kind of, I don't know, like an aged beige or something like that, I thought that would work pretty good as my highlighting in here in the darker areas if I wanted a little bit. It might stand out too much because I'm not sure if this one would be appropriate to have some really kind of bright highlighting in here. All right, but we'll see. I don't know. I'll test it in a little area. These are 0.7 millimeter acrylic paint pens. I don't think I've used most of these yet, but let's take a look here and see. Okay. This one I have used. Okay. One of the things I like about these paint pens is I feel that the colors of the cap here are pretty close, to what they are in their colors. So they've done a really good job of, color matching. So you can have a pretty good indication of what you're working with. I haven't used this one yet. And they get flowing pretty good. Okay, so you retract spring. Just wait for that paint to come down. This one's taking a little bit longer. Here we go. That's not too long at all. All right. Nothing like a new pen. I'm sure I haven't used this one before because I don't know what I would use it for. But it's nice having access to these this type of range of hue, values, I guess intensity. There's some kind of pastels in here. You get some grays in there too. I haven't really explored kind of the full use. Okay, that's some gold. That one's gold. I don't want that in here. There's some colors that I just don't have. This one looks like a gold too. I think they gave 2 golds and 2 silvers because they figured people are going to use those ones a lot, quite a bit. But maybe. Nah, see, this is too bright a green. I don't have like a dirty green in here. I want like a. Let's just go with. It's too peachish. You don't have every color in here, I've realized. Like, this would be perfect if it was lighter, so. Oh, I don't know. Let's give these a try here. Shake them up real quick. Remember, you have to shake these up quite a bit. Otherwise, they're not going to be as opaque. I don't know, maybe I can use that for my advantage. Maybe I should have something like this, but have it thinner so that it kind of matches with the background more because it would be more translucent to transparent. So if you put it on here, the colors would show. No, this one's going to be too dark. Now this beige here, I don't know, maybe that'll match slightly better with the greenish tinge. I might not be able to do anything, I'm not sure. Alright, so anyway, like on these ones, I think I mentioned in my previous video when working on these, I'm not sure if I'm going to add these highlights in here. I thought, I think it could use it. Okay, now, what is a highlight? A highlight is going to be some sort of, in this case, a little dot or line or something of a lighter tone in a very targeted area, okay? So where do you put highlights? Okay, let's think about this. All right? If my hand is like a rock, okay, and the lighting is coming, I have my lights coming at a 45-degree angle from both sides as opposed to being top lit, but see the top side of it right here is focusing on my light, right? And the bottom side is the shadows, okay? So on these rocks in the background, okay, on the top sides of them, in a color or a value that is lighter than the object itself, right? If I put a dark dot on there, that's not going to be a highlight. So it's not going to be the same for everything. Now, if I only had a white paint pen, then that's, that's always going to be the color to use. But I wanted this to be a little bit more subtle, so, okay, so see this right here? What you do is you just kind of put a little bit of a dot, and you can put kind of a larger one. In the area that has the most amount of light, okay? So it's kind of the center area. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of adding this down here. Now this is pretty good. You can barely see it. I can barely see it here, in fact. Let's see if you can see it at all. Okay, I am going to try. I always say this in my videos and I forget to zoom out sometimes, but see this right here? I'm putting a little bit more highlight in the lighter area, and then I'm kind of dissipating it, okay, with some additional dots, okay? So a little bit more highlight on the top, and then I spread the darts apart, okay? Do you see that right there? See, that is a very subtle addition of highlighting. See that right there? And it's just a little bit lighter to the background, okay? See that right there on the top there? Now this is what it looks at arm's distance. It's barely discernible, okay? Now if I did it in white, you'd see it much stronger, and I'll do that too. But this is a pretty good way to do it if you want to kind of get a little bit of a transitional type of lighting effect, okay, in here. I'm putting some of this around my quote. Now some of this I have to be careful because this dot is darker than some of those areas. So I put it in, I don't know, it's not really a highlight. I shouldn't have done that. But that's okay. Now see, some of those dots are in the lighter area, so it's not a highlight. So let me come in with my white, okay. And let's use some of this. So you can see some of those darker dots on lighter background. What I really want is a lighter dot on darker background. Now some of it's the same value, okay? Okay, so let's put this in here. And we call this specular light. It's light that's brighter than white. Gosh, I say that a million times in my videos. But the first time I ever heard that was in my college photography class. I was just taking an elective class, and I took a lot of photography in high school, but it was the first time I ever heard the term specular light by my teacher, Mrs. Kennedy, who was the county photographer, the LA County photographer, or I don't know, photographer for LA County. And what she did was she went out, she was a photographer with a photography degree, but her job, I think, entailed going out and taking like crime photos. You think it would be the, there would be someone within the, I don't know, LAPD or something like that taking, but I don't know. She was the photographer for the county. It's interesting. Okay, so anyways, there's the white in here. All right, so see those little highlights? It makes those rocks kind of come alive a little bit more. Now, I wasn't going to do it because I had other lighting in there, but I think that looks pretty good. I've kept it pretty subtle. Okay, now you can see it really good if we're looking at it really close like that. Can you see all these around here? Those little dots. I mean, it's not like crawling with little dots where it looks like little bugs or something like that around it. But, I'm just coming to show you. You can add things with subtlety, okay? So you can add it like on some trees, facing those trees. Here, we can put some on these leaves. Like this. And it just, I don't know, it brings it to life a little bit more. Yeah, okay, I like that. Now see out here, that little white dot is going to stand out in the background much more. Okay, so why not I use one of these blues? I think this one right here would be a dark blue on light blues. So it wouldn't be a highlight, but see, maybe I can use some of this blue and kind of in a very subtle way. Okay, so this is a lighter area, so we have white highlights. And in the darker areas, we have a blue highlight because it's transitioning from lighter lighting, okay, to darker lighting out here. Highlights, okay. Let's see, I don't know if you'll be able to tell the difference here. Yeah, okay, you see that those dots in there are white? Because we're really close to the white light. And then out here, it just gets a little bit, the darker. I can put white out there and I think it would look fine, okay? But I think this looks a little bit better. See what I mean? These little dots out here don't stand out as much. So even at kind of this distance here, it's it's more subtle, okay? All right, so that is that. Let's take a look at this one right here. Now, I wasn't quite sure if I should use like this, in here. What do you think? Highlights right here in the greens? Yeah, okay, let's give it a try. I wasn't going to add so much of this because I kind of like things as is in here, but maybe those highlights are, kind of making it, improving on it in a very subtle way. Okay. And you know what I mean? These pieces, the whole theme for this entire kind of video series right here, well, it was, besides the teaching how to use the moons, but after that, it's about making something from nothing. So it involves covering up areas with stamps. That's one way to kind of obscure things that we don't want or things that went awry, okay? And I'm covering it up with color, okay? So those were two different things that we've covered up, things that we didn't want in the piece, okay? But now when we're doing this, you can say, okay, no, this is like, a third layer of some element, okay? That will, kind of distract. No, I don't know. It's not really distract, but that's not the right word. I don't know. Help me out here. It will obscure. I don't know. Yeah, obscure the things that you don't want someone to see, or you don't want to be visible in the piece. So this is a textural layer in here. Actually, it looks pretty good. That is helping to, just bury, I don't know, maybe that's the right word, bury our pieces in here. Okay, so see, that's the yellow-green in here, those highlights in here. And again, this is what it looks like at arm's distance. Remember to hold things out at arm's distance. When you don't hold things at arm's distance, what happens is we kind of outline things, dot, 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 and outline the trees and outline the trees, okay? And we outline, here, here, here. And then, we're working like this, and we're working on a little area. And then when you hold it at an arm's distance, it's like Christmas lights over everything, which kind of looks cool. You know what I mean? But if you're doing that, kind of do it, with the idea in mind that, you're being purposeful about that type of application quality to your highlights, okay? That being said, I'd rather people kind of overdo things than to be scared about adding something to their pieces. I like bold, I'll take bold over, you know, overly careful, okay? Okay, and adding these little highlights down here. So I've added the whiter dots in here, okay? Highlights in the lighter area. And then we have the darker highlights. The darker is a light green, but it shows up in here, okay? Let's see if we can see those. Okay, see these white ones in here? Now, see, I didn't put the white out here because this is in a darker area, right? Right in here, if we can get that focused in. You see those little, little dots down here, little specular light, reflecting off the surface of the water in that area. Now, if I wanted to, I can kind of highlight the insides of these trees right here. I don't think I want to do that, though, because it's really dark on dark, and this would stand out a little bit too much. I can go with the dark green, but I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to leave. I don't want to draw attention in here, okay? I want this to be the kind of the focal point. If I highlight in here, it's not as if these trees are going to be a focal point, but again, I wanted to obscure this kind of bottom area. Okay, so let's do a few more of these right here. We'll keep it pretty subtle, okay? We'll go with a few little white ones, or lighter blue. This cloud down below. The clouds above it are being bottom lit, right? Okay, so I will bottom light some clouds. And you're saying, well, hey, how do you know where to bottom light something? Okay, a little bit too much. I'll just wipe it off. Well, on the designs themselves, okay, I have the lighting on there, okay? So you don't have to think this out. I already have things lit. See, this cloud right here is bottom lit, and this cloud right here, underneath the, the moon or sun, is top lit. So all I'm doing is I'm adding my highlights on this little, these little areas like that, okay? So you just kind of follow suit with doing the same. Oh, here it is right here. This one right here. Top lit right here. And like here, see, these are bottom lit right here. See, there's this little white line in between this area, the cloud, and this one. Okay, see, there's right down here. All you're doing, you don't have to devise anything, okay? All you have to do is observe and just reiterate what's on the design itself, okay? Now, if I didn't color this in with some blue, it would all be white, so you wouldn't, be able to add white to it and have it show. But if you do kind of put some blue over it, then you can add in these little highlights like this. Okay. So let's see this right here. I added some blue down here and the white, like right around in this area. You see it right here? This is really subtle stuff, you know what I mean? If you're looking at it at arm's distance, it's not really not making much, if any, of a difference at all, okay? But chances are, if someone gets your card like this, they might look at it like this. They'll look at it overall, then they'll hold it up like this, and, if they're a stamper especially, they'll appreciate all your little kind of details that you add into your piece. Okay, now this one right here was the one I was kind of curious about, if I would do this. Let me try some of this green. It might be too lime of a green. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. I don't want like a fluorescent green in here kind of reflecting that muddy, murky look. But let's try a little bit of some white in here, okay? We'll keep it very subtle. Very subtle, almost to the point of invisible. How's that? Okay. So now, look at these rocks in here, okay? I mean, I don't know if there's even 10 dots, but see these rocks in here? Catching that light right up there? But see, these rocks are really murky and dark, so I don't want too many highlights in there because we're saying that not a lot of light is hitting them. But see that right there? There's one dot on 1, 2, 3, 4 rocks, and there's 2 dots right here. I don't know, this one right here, there might be 3 dots or something like that. But, if you do that, sometimes I don't know, it just makes those objects seem a little bit more rounded. Now look at those. See like that? It's just like a little tiny highlight. It's just like this pad right here. See this right here? Where's the highlight on this pad? It's like right there and right there. But you take that away and look how flat that looks, okay? Now we have this highlight on here, but is that little ridge right there? See, if this is a rock, I'm putting it on the top side, okay? Like that. See that? Get it? And if I put it up here, then this is top lit, and there's your highlights. Okay? So this right here will go like this. Okay, now this is my top area, and here's the highlight right on top. Not on the bottom, okay? But just right here. Now let's put it under some shade. Let me see if I can shade it a little bit. See this? I'm shading it kind of this way. Sorry. And then here's less of a highlight right here because it's only coming from one angle. I go like that, and it's this whole area right here, okay? So kind of get, you know, as far as the concept goes, okay? And that's what we have right there. All right? Oh, now one of the things I was thinking about doing is I was thinking about putting a little bit, let's see if it, I thought I would put a few little highlights on this octopus, on these arms like that. Okay, actually that looks pretty cool, I think. I wouldn't want to be here. Unless this octopus is like Flipper or something like that. You know, where it's like a pet. I don't know if they ever are, though. Sometimes they are. Look at the playful octopus. See this right here? See, as it's coming out of the the shadows and the top sides of it. I put some highlights. See this one right here? On the top side of it. Then it's like going into the depths or something like that. So you have that. Isn't it kind of a little bit more three-dimensional that way? Okay, but see how subtle. You can go very, very subtle, okay? You don't have to use too much, but you can put a few little highlights out like this, okay? And again, I'm just putting some highlights on that cloud, edge. It's like, whatever, silver line cloud type of thing. So there it is out here. See, it just kind of peters out right there. Here's the line right there, and I just kind of petered it out with some little dots like that, okay? Oh, here. This is something that didn't occur to me until right now, but on these branches right here, okay, I'll put some of these highlights on the branch, okay? Visual continuity, design continuity. Okay, to get this right here, I think this is really good. This for me, now I didn't think about that until like right then and there, so it just comes, show you, you don't have to preconceive anything. I mean, this whole card is, different, is, conceived after, during the process, but you see these right here, where these highlights are up here, on these branches like that, how it's capturing that light. And now you have it, here's these arms coming from below, and there's those highlights on those. So overall, like when you look at it like this, it's not like, oh my gosh, there's such a relationship between the top and the bottom, but it does kind of create a textural relationship between these top things like this, these forms that are coming in like that, and the bottom form, right? And you've done it because it's black, but then when you reiterate it too with like little textures like this or lighting highlights, it balances things out a little bit more, maybe in a very subtle way. People aren't, like I said, people aren't going to look at it and say, oh my gosh, how balanced that is because those highlights are on there. But I think on a subconscious level, it just kind of brings things together even more. Okay, now I have the interior of my card, and I thought what would be kind of interesting on this would be to use these, this Octopus stamp again. I gotta clean it off of the black ink that is in this. If you didn't watch my previous video, I forgot this is from A Fistful of Stamps. They are out of business, okay, but you can find Octopus stamps, you know, from other companies. This is probably clip art, as a matter of fact. I don't know how many people have octopus stamps, though. I don't know, you know. Okay, so I'm going to go like this right here. I'm not going to use the whole thing. The whole thing was like, the way that I used it, it was supposed to look more like a kraken or something like that. Some kind of like creature of the depths, you know. So it like something like that as our visual continuity. I would put something up here. I'm not quite sure. I'd put some kind of, you know, happy fishing, or, you know, or happy Halloween. I don't know, whatever you want it to say. I think this would make a great Halloween card. You know, it is kind of this monstrous type of, you know, looking thing. All right. All right, so there's one more down and one more to go. All right, let's just make this fast, okay? Okay, let me bring in some highlights. This one is pretty light around these trees down here because I had this full moon imagery down there, and I didn't, you know, block it out with additional blue tones. I just stamped over it with the trees, so there's still quite a bit of light down there. So let's do that. Okay. Here, let's illuminate the trees so you can see what tree illumination will look like. And there's plenty of like white, you know, reflecting light in here. So I'll add more of these highlights in my lighter area. Okay. And now as it moves out here, the scene is getting darker, right? So look at this. 1, 2 dots right there as far as highlights go, okay? So it looks just something like this. You see how we've used more highlighting in here in the lighter areas and less out here. It's the same thing. When we're adding shadows, we're adding more dark out here and less in here, right? But when you're adding highlights, you add more in the light and less as it moves out like that. Okay, now here's this image right here, and you see these white areas in here where I have given you the lighting scheme for this imagery right here. Now, if this was the sun, if we were using it as a sun, it's a beautiful, warm, yellow glow or something like that, golden glow, then you don't add white highlights. You add, you know, something like yellow highlights because it's a yellow light reflecting off of these, okay? All right, so let's add these in like so. Okay. A little bit more in the lighter areas, and then as it moves away, you spread out your dot more, okay? That. I'm not going to add too much to my sky area. It'd be cool with some little stars out here, but let's just keep it really simple here. All right, so anyways, let's see if we can see those highlights in here. Quite a few in here, okay? Not a ton, but looks like there's 3 little dots up there. A couple around in here. And as it moves away from my light, there's like 2 on this tree. You can see some right in here, right? But you add more in here and less out here. More in the light, less in the dark. Okay? And this is another one too. I mean, we could use, you know, the darker dot instead of just fewer dots too. But I'm just showing you can use your white pen. Okay, but, you know, here's this one right here. Standing out a little bit too much, maybe. Let's try this one. I don't know if I've done like really dark highlighting before with these pens yet. From this set at least. You know, I've done it before with my other pens, but this is a little bit of a darker blue. It's like a, I don't know, like a medium tone blue or something like that. Let's see if we can see any difference to it, okay? But here's like a blue highlight right over here. And as you're moving in, it moves into the white highlight like that, okay? Now these are subtle differences. I'm just saying if you have the pens and you want to do that. I could have used probably that, you know, that medium blue all over the place too, and it would look pretty cool. It just wouldn't look as quite as reflective of the light on the trees. But I still think it would be just fine. Okay? So let's take a look at these as far as like a little mini series. I wasn't intending on doing this, but I don't know. You get started on, cards, and I mean, I do have a bunch of cards that I could finish off, tons of them, but I don't know. I just really like finishing these things off. And it's always a good lesson, kind of showing people kind of what you do, if you have something that, I don't know, is coming out where you didn't intend it to be, in terms of where it is in the process, you can still kind of make something out, or what you do is you make something different out of it. Now, there are certain stamps that just cover up better than others. Solid stamps, can cover up anything, you know. But I don't know, kind of all kinds of possibilities when you're doing these types of pieces here. And if you don't have a solid type of thing, let's say we have just some kind of grass cluster or something like that, then you can fill in with a lot of heavy kind of tonal framing like this, make it darker around the perimeters, and that just looks good anyway for scenic stamping. If when you just darken the whole areas or something like this down here, as long as you kind of balance it out with some lighter tones or whatever, you have kind of a range, I guess you can say. Um, it just, I don't know, everything, you can obscure anything just about in scenic stamping, from the cover-ups to color applications to textural changes, in terms of the lighter tones, the lighter kind of frosty, misty look with that, or the very specific sharp, detailed highlights of something like a paint pen. They're just really great tools to use. Format them up in a card like this, and you got a great looking card. Oh, I still wanted to, I was thinking about, gosh, see, unlimited things to do. I was still thinking about some quote stamps in here. Maybe for a couple of these. I don't know. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm just going to do some simple things right here, just maybe one word types of um, what copy editions. I don't know what even word, quote stamps or whatever. Not a quote stamp. Well, here's a quote stamp right here. This one already has something. I'm not going to add anything to that, but this one right here I thought would go great with dream. And there's a couple different places I can add it. I can add it down below. I can add it in the sky. I think I'm going to leave this one kind of pure up there. Let's really just kind of have that just pure nighttime sky up there, although that's a great spot for a quote stamp. But I'm going to see if this is going to look pretty good down here. If it doesn't, I'm just going to wipe it right off. That's the beauty of this pigment ink, okay? Now I'm using the Brilliance ink, so it'll dry on here just fine. If you're using kind of white standard, I don't know if it's going to dry on here. So if you do it with like a Hero Arts or something like that, or I don't know, whatever other types of pigment inks you have, you might want to emboss it, which would look fantastic too, though. Emboss your word stamp in there and have something kind of raised would be kind of cool. Okay, here we have that. Dream. It's kind of subtle too. I like that. Does that make for a dramatic piece? I don't know. I don't always use word stamps, but I don't know. I've always loved graphic design and the marriage of, typography and visuals. So let's go with moon. I'm just going to say night here. Okay, I'm just eyeballing it too. Like I said, if you get it, if it comes out crooked, just wipe it off and do it over again. I don't want to, I hope I get it, but maybe I'll put this down here again, okay? It's just kind of interesting because I layered over that moon with additional tones, right? Additional trees, and now I'm putting this on top, so it's like another layer of something kind of, kind of eradicating kind of the whole memory of that moon, additional moon being down there. Okay. That is, it's a little bit, skewed, but so what? It's close enough. I'm not going to wipe it off. This one right here, I don't know if I have, kind of something. Actually, that looks like to me? I was in Santa Barbara one time eating at this outdoor patio area, this restaurant, and the twilight was this lime emerald green sky. It was really amazing. I've never seen that again. So I'm going to put twilight. We're going to say this is twilight right here. It's like a period between, sunset and night, which is, I think that's my favorite time of day. I love sunsets. I love, nighttime. Sunrises. I like the sunsets a little bit more than sunrises, though. Although you love sunrises in terms of kind of the emotional quality and what it represents in the day. But just in terms of visuals, I think I really like the twilight. I like the colors that you see at twilight. You can get some of the deepest colors at that time, too, because they're all completely saturated without having the sunlight, in there. But, whew. Okay, so here's twilight right here. Okay. And that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit higher, like by a tiny bit of an inch. And I don't think there's anything that's going to go in here. I'd probably put some kind of quote in here or something like that. Night music. No. Silence. That'd be kind of interesting. I have a silence right here. I don't know. That would kind of be interesting, though. Night music. Dusk star. I don't have like like a spooky type of thing, but there might be some kind of interesting thing to put in here. Sea breeze. I haven't used that one before, I don't think. Okay, so anyways, let's take a look at these again. I think I am done, finally. I thought I was done in the last video, but then, like I said, other things kind of occur to you that you can kind of do that might add to it, so. I don't think I've done a whole series where, I don't know, like 4 out of 5 of the pieces had, quote, word stamps in them, but I think that added to it, so. I think it adds a lot to them, having it in there. I know it looks a little bit more, kind of professional or something like that with that typography. Okay, so anyways, 5 pieces right here. 5 pretty good looking cards. I really like them. And I'm not, when I finish like this, I'm not thinking about those things that were in these pieces anymore. I was kind of thinking about it, for sure in that first video where I was covering all of them up and whatnot. But when you start kind of obscuring all these other things in there, those other types of things that you had, previously, I don't know, whatever it was, 5 steps ago or something like that. I don't even remember them, when I'm working on these pieces. I'm just thinking about the next step and what could, what we can do to them or add to them. And that just becomes part of the process. And those other things in the past, that you might not have liked, they become history. So, I don't know, just kind of work with your pieces. I would definitely say, maybe if you don't even finish them up right then and there, I would keep your stack, somewhere else. So that somewhere along the line, it might even be a year from now or something like this. I see people in the Stampscapes Facebook group, some people say, I did this card like 3 years ago or 2 years ago or something like that, and they just finished it recently, and it looks fantastic, and they posted it because somewhere along the line they come up with a solution that they wanted for whatever that incarnation of the card was to become ultimately. So save that stuff and see if you can come up with something at some later date. You don't have to think about it or contemplate it. You might just kind of develop some types of techniques or whatever along the way, and you say, I can employ it on that card that I used before, and then whatever time that you spent on that card before doesn't, isn't some kind of wasted effort. Not that anything's a wasted effort in terms of your process and learning new things, but in terms of a finished piece, you can really make use of it. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoy these cards. I really enjoyed doing this set right here. I really like the end results of them. And I thought of some new things just by having worked with these things too. So, I don't know. I don't think I've been doing the copy like down in the imagery a whole lot. It's usually been an open space before. I've done that at some point in time, but I didn't do it enough. So I really like the look of it down here. And that kind of keeps that open area up top, fine. I think that dream would look fine up here, but I think it looks even better down here, don't you think? And maybe I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not been covering up something else and really made it extra dark down there too. So see how things still even open up for me in terms of kind of ideas, after all this time. So always learning, kind of coming up with new types of concepts and applications for your stamps. Okay, so thanks again for watching. If you have any comments, please leave it down in the comment section. Always love hearing from you, and thanks as always for tuning into the channel.